I've been meaning to have this conversation with someone, and I'm glad you brought it up. Yes, Trump is horrible, but we have Biden, who has most young people are disillusioned with because of
Hmm.
his foreign policy stance, because he's been
Hmm.
bankrolling and unilaterally, like unrestrictedly supporting what many have called the genocide, going
Yes.
on and the mass slaughter of
Yeah.
Palestinians. Um, he hasn't delivered on key promises, student loans, and many of these other things. Even all, with all of that, we know that Trump is worse.
Yes.
A lot of people just can't bring themselves to vote for
Yeah.
him.
Well,
The-
see, this is part of the problem. Yeah, this is part of the problem that folks who read Project 2025 in an affirmative way, like they like what this is saying, they're
right,
going to probably expect that some of this is going to happen.
right,
And just like with the student loans is the easier conversation.
right.
So the diplomatic relationships and complex ties between the U.S. and Israel is probably something that one of our professors, Ronnie Olesker, is better qualified to speak to. But I think the student loan issue presents the kind of complexity of the idealism that candidates necessarily have to sell their constituents and the political and legal and fiscal realities of actually getting stuff done.
Right.
It's easy to say, I'm going to put into process these loan forgiveness programs. But just like with Project 2025's initiatives, people can challenge these things in court. So
Okay.
yeah, you can make the claim that you're going to do these things, but doing them might be very difficult. What's holding up the student loan fixes is one, we don't have actual legislation fixing this, which is how it should work,
Mhm.
right? But that's not going to happen.
Mhm.
So we're going the executive order route. Executive orders can be rescinded by the next administration just like that. So even if it were done, it's no guarantee that future administrations won't change anything.
Right.
So there's that. Plus, there's been legal challenges to Biden's student loan forgiveness programs, and that has to be pushed through the courts. That's just how our system works. It's called the separation of powers, and it's actually a really good thing. Like,
Yeah.
because 2025, apart from an actual coup,
Right.
could never be just instituted without any contest.
See, I agree with all of that, right? But one thing we gotta give the Republicans or the conservatives, I don't want to confound the two because that's a broad umbrella. Whether we like it or not, this thing that they're doing with Project 2025 speaks to their base.
It does.
We like it or not, it rallies people to come and support them if they agree with these
Yes,
things.
it does.
And
Yes, it
so,
does.
what is the left giving people outside of
Nothing.
saying the conservatives are worse than we are? And I think
Well,
that
yeah.
politics of like the other side is worse. Young people are just like the hell with all of that because it's like we've been seeing the older generation do that for so long, and it's like the conservatives getting there. What we see as tangible changes is abortion restrictions, book bans, all across the country, incendiary language from the right, and they get to do the things that they say they want to do. But on the left, it's always like, we can't because of X, Y, and Z. But hey, still vote for us because the other side is worse.
Right. Well, I would say that for anybody that makes a comparison, it's a false equivalency. Like in this election, you have a choice between someone who is probably not the best person for the challenges that are we're going to be facing to act in our executive position versus a convicted felon who actually said that we should suspend the Constitution. You can look this up. It's a matter of public record. He tweeted or X'd or whatever. He social mediated out the comment that we should suspend the Constitution. And he's a convicted felon. And he was adjudicated to have sexually abused a woman by a jury of his peers and had to pay money for lying about her and defaming her more than once. There's no equivalency here. So let's just be clear. There's no clear equivalency. And
Course.
if you care about Palestine, if you care about student loans, if you care about reproductive rights, if any of these issues motivate you, there's only one clear choice if there are two choices presented to us.
Mhm.
But to be fair, and
Right.
this is just me editorializing, I
Mhm.
think for far too long, and I say this as a person who is solidly middle-aged. I think for far too long, and I don't want to make this prejudicial, but I think by and large, men of a certain generation
Mhm.
have thought of themselves as the ones who should be in charge,
Mhm.
and younger people are merely support staff so they can achieve their dreams. And I think this election is a perfect representation of that.
Mhm.
The problem isn't that we don't have solid, and I'm not a registered Democrat, so I don't think in those terms, but it's not the problem that Democrats don't have young talent
Mhm.
that could come up and make a good case and be successful candidates and be really able representatives. I
Mhm.
just think the party hasn't done enough to cultivate that talent. And I think that's a culture wide problem.
Right.
That's my bias as a teacher. First thing I say when I talk to my students in religion and ecology or religion and politics,
Mhm.
I've got maybe 20 years if things go well, and I'm out. It
Right.
isn't about me anymore.
Right.
Y'all need to get involved and figure this out.
Right.
But that said, if people are not voting strategically to
Mhm.
secure their position so that they can have an opportunity to change things peacefully,
Right.
legally, and sustainably, right? So a change that will actually be in effect long after their lifetimes, they're going to have to stop thinking that every battle is the war, that
Mhm.
every victory is permanent, that every loss is a real defeat for all time.
Right.
Every 4 years we go through the same argument as if we're electing a tyrant. Small wonder that people think of the president as a completely, like, they can just go in and do whatever they want. They
How it
can't by
works.
design, and we don't want that. So
Right.
stop voting that way. You're not voting for Joe Biden. You're voting for the policies and administration he's going to put into place.
Mhm.
You're not voting for Donald Trump. You're voting for the policies and administration he's going to put into place. Stop thinking about the person.
Right.
Because, I mean, the vice president's job is to literally step up if that person dies or becomes otherwise infirmed.
Right.
That should tell you that you're voting for an institution,
Right.
not a person. So the celebrity culture around the president is just super destructive.
And I agree with almost all of what you said. I just felt it was important to name those frustrations that may keep a
Yes,
lot of young people home, that may like deter a lot of people from voting for Democrats.
yes. It's what happened in 2016.
Right, because the conservatives are doing their part, right? They're making the promises, they're speaking to their base, they're speaking to the issues that they care about. And I think it's important for us to have these conversations to be like, listen, your camp on the left is filled with virtuously giving people who care about a lot of different things. And at times those different things are at odds. But anyways, we're getting away from the topic.
Sure,
Coming
sure.
back to Project 2025.